When did you finally realize being the nice guy wasn't enough? My girlfriend stumbled through our front door just after 2 a.m. Her dress was ripped down the side. One shoe was missing and she could barely stay on her feet. The second I caught her, she collapsed into my arms, shaking so hard I thought she might pass out. She kept getting sick onto the living room floor while apologizing over and over, as if any of this was somehow her fault. I sat her down, grabbed water, and tried to keep my own panic under control because I already knew something terrible had happened. Lena is the toughest person I've ever met. She worked as a criminal prosecutor, spending every day putting violent offenders behind bars. Nothing ever seemed to rattle her. But that night she looked completely shattered, hugging her knees on our couch like she was trying to disappear. Between sobs, she told me a man had trapped her outside the nightclub restroom after she'd gotten separated from her friends. He was huge, smelled like liquor, pinned her against the wall, and ignored every scream for help. The music drowned everything out, and by the time anyone noticed, it was already over. What happened afterward made me even angrier. She found security immediately, and pointed the guy out while he laughed with his group near the VIP tables. The bouncer barely looked at him before saying, "Without proof, there's nothing we can do." Then he quietly admitted the man was related to the club's owner, and suggested she just leave before she caused problems. The manager backed him up. Her friends wanted to call the police, but staff threatened to blacklist their entire group from every popular club downtown. Other women even admitted they'd seen the same guy do things like this before, but nobody ever stopped him because his family owned the place. Lena knew exactly how these cases worked. She prosecuted criminals for a living, yet she also knew there were no cameras where it happened and nobody willing to testify. The system she trusted every day had completely failed her. All I could do was hold her while she cried, feeling more powerless than I ever had. Then I thought of my dad. He'd spent decades working construction in the roughest neighborhoods around the city. He knew people I'd spent my entire life avoiding. People who believed justice didn't always come from a courtroom. The next morning, while Lena slept, I drove to my parents' house. Dad was in the garage drinking coffee, surrounded by old tools and dusty boxing trophies. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he quietly asked for the man's name. I pulled up the club's social media page where the owner's cousin proudly posed with expensive watches, luxury cars, and VIP photos. Dad studied every picture without saying a word. Then he made a few phone calls. Each conversation lasted less than a minute. I only heard short sentences, unfamiliar names, and reminders about favors owed. When he finished, he put his phone away, looked at me, and simply said, "Go home. Stay with Lena. I'll take care of the rest." 3 days later, every local news station was covering the same story. The club owner's relative had been discovered behind one of the family's businesses with both hands shattered, several broken ribs, and injuries severe enough that doctors said he'd never fully recover. Investigators claimed there were no witnesses and no security cameras covering the area. But that's not what shocked everyone. Police searched his apartment after receiving an anonymous tip. Inside were hidden hard drives packed with recordings of women, stolen personal belongings, and enough evidence to connect him to more than a dozen assaults spanning several years. Within weeks, the investigation spread to all of the family's clubs. The owner was arrested for helping conceal the crimes and paying off officials. Once the story became public, multiple victims finally came forward knowing he couldn't intimidate them anymore. Lena never spoke at the press conference, but she followed every update from beginning to end. Dad never admitted doing anything. The one time I thanked him, he just patted my shoulder and started talking about baseball. Still, I noticed the fresh cuts across his knuckles that hadn't been there before. Lena saw them too. Neither of us ever asked where they came from.